Welcome to the Whiskey with Winners podcast, the show with business titans sharing their stories of the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite glass of whiskey, and listen to the real and raw stories of these industry leaders. Now, here's your host, the man, the myth, the legend, the most interesting marketer, Jacob Fail.
What's up, everybody? It's Jacob Fail, the most interesting marketer, and today we have a very special guest. We have RAMY El-BATWARI. So RAMY he has an incredible story. He went from being homeless on the streets to becoming a billionaire by the age of 32 or 33. So thank you for spending time with me, and I want to talk a little bit about your backstory. So bring us back to young RAMY. Like, where did you start at? Like, where were you born? What got you into entrepreneurship?
I was born in Geneva, Switzerland, but my heritage is Egyptian. And my parents migrated to the U.S. when I was 8, and then they went to Montreal when I was 10. And at 12, I picked up the book Think and Grow Rich, or actually somebody gave me that book, and the book really resonated with me. I was excited to everything it said. I mean, I was a kid; everybody beat up on school and rejected and didn't have any friends. So the book showed me a way that I can really achieve great success and surpass anybody that was around me. So I read that book for over 20 times in one day. You know, and the book said it just kept on repeating that nothing lasts, or the biggest reason why people fail is procrastination. And I decided that I just had to leave right there and then and just go follow my path and what I wanted to do. So, I just 7 years, if I could just go out there and just do what this book says, I could achieve so much more. And the great thing about being that young, you kind of believe everything you hear because you haven't been influenced by all the negative influences by the world yet. So the book was basically my Bible to really go after and use those principles to achieve everything I wanted. So I left home at 12, hitchhiked down to Florida, and ended up homeless till I was about 17. So the first 3 years I was sleeping on the streets under underpasses and so on. And then the only few times I got a job was all before I was 16, because the book says you can't get rich working for somebody else. Yep. I went and got a job as a short order cook to get $300 to buy this Cadillac that was my home for the next 2 years. And then I just kept on trying new business until by the time when I was 17, I found the business, which was a key centers because I was one of the principles I put in the book is you find a need and fill it. And I was trying to always find a need and fill it. And one of the department stores had a lot of volume. I asked a lot of the employees, what do people ask for and you don't have that you don't do? And a couple of them said that they have people ask for keys and we don't do that. So I thought that'd be a great business to start. And I bought a used key machine for $50 and got a desk from a junkyard and a register from a restaurant. I stopped by, sat on the floor and bought some key blanks for $12. And I had the guy who sold the key blanks show me how to cut keys, and I was in that business. And that's how I made the first million. I ended up the first week made $600 that first store. Within a year and a half, I was in all their 230 stores. And so
let's take a step back. So you're on the street hitchhiking at 12, which right. I couldn't even imagine, being 12 years old and we're going from Canada, which obviously it's super cold up there. So, you go into a warm state. It was definitely a smart move, right? But
I see a lot of these homeless guys in New York freezing. I have no idea why they stay there. I mean, there's nothing holding them. They might as well just head on to Florida.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Like just to think being that young, and obviously, being that young, you believe everything, and you're too naive to care because you just you believe everything is truth, right? And you cut your teeth, through trials and tribulations, which is awesome. So you obviously you walked into the store and you saw that they needed, they had a need, they needed keys. So did you just like buy your first little key cutting machine and then like just start cutting keys from there and then franchised it out, or how did that work for you?
Yeah, no, I bought my first key machine for like $50 used, and yeah, no, I didn't know anything about franchises. I just kept on opening stores, hired people, and we had one pitch that worked really well. Everybody walk by, buy 2 keys, get 1 free. That was a pitch, and each store did pretty well, and everybody always needs an extra key. So I did that for about a year and a half, but then the managers of the store saw that I was making pretty good, but I was giving 20% of my gross, so they decided to do it on their own. And they gave me, again, I didn't know much about business, so I didn't have a lease. They gave me 30-day notice, and I was out. And because I reinvested everything in the business and doing what I was doing, I was totally broke again. So I was in the streets again. And again, because of thinking rich and everything else, I knew the saying is through every adversity, see equal greater benefit. I just said, okay, well, this lets me be free to start my next business, which will be bigger and better. So again, walks the streets, stopped by a body shop and saw this guy in a body shop had 4 or 5 cars. That's what he does, and he says he buys cars from one auction and fixes them up at some another auction. So I thought I'd do that. See that it seemed like it made a lot of common sense. And that's where, again, I got the new principle of using other people's money. Didn't have the money to do it. But I approached a guy that I saw that was a guard at one of the Zara stores that was working 2-3 jobs just to pay for, the survival and his family and stuff. So I offered him, he put up the money for the cars. He can keep the titles and we split the profits 50-50. So I agreed. I started doing that for a little while. Wanted to really grow, so got aggressive, made some mistakes again because I didn't know about the titles on cars was worth less, and I was paying full price for those things. And I was back down to my last car. But at the auction, I saw a guy looking at one of my last trucks I fixed, and he says, trying to sell it to him. He says, I'm not really interested, but what I do is buy custom vans, build custom vans, but there's not enough van shells. And it's because the EPA lowered the standard, what the average mile is for the manufacturer. So they were building a lot smaller cars, less big cars, and especially trucks and vans. But the popularity of custom vans were really big in the 80s. So I said, no problem, I can find you some van shells. So I went around all over Florida, found some vans and started bringing it to him. He did buy them. Then I took some of his custom vans, went back to Tampa and saw dealerships bought them pretty quickly, and then they were making almost $6,000-7,000 a van, while I was making $500-600. So I knew that the money was into dealerships and selling at retail, and that's where again another principle of thinking. Okay, I need to get a dealership. I'll make a lot more money. Who would benefit from me owning a dealership? And that's where, again, I was thinking, and I said, wow, the guy who built the vans would rather sell in one location than run around the whole country selling it. So I went over to Hartwell, Georgia, talked to him, and it took me pretty much a whole day. But at the end, I convinced him to advance me the money to open up the first dealership. And so he gave me $1 million.
Didn't he greet you with a shotgun? I think I heard you say that.
When we did. I was in the middle of Hartwell, Georgia, and I wasn't totally white, and I was walking up to his gate. He says, what do you want, boy? So that was the beginning of it. But I turned that around and kind of explained to him what I was doing was one of his guys and selling these vans. And then once I showed him the benefits of owning a dealership, then he calmed down and we talked about it. And then he agreed to put up the money in the vans to open up the dealership. And then by the first, so I opened up the first dealership. Another year and a half, I opened up 6 dealerships all across Florida, started an insurance company, real estate. So by the time I was 23, I had a net worth now of $50 million. So I really thought I had everything. I mean, I thought I conquered it. I had lots of money. I had the best car, best house, best everything. And then one day I was watching Lifestyles of Rich and Famous, which was my favorite show.
Yeah.
And then that show was it was a man about Adnan Khashoggi. He was the richest man in the world, doing $1 billion transaction, 35 homes, yachts, 7 planes. And I realized after the show was done that I had absolutely nothing. So it was like, okay, what do I need to do? So I realized that I had to go after and work with this guy, and everybody laughed at me. But I sold everything I had within 2 weeks. It was a fire sale, got maybe 8-9 million out of what I had, and went looking for him. And again, I put in the book a lot of the principles of what I use to go after all this stuff, burning your bridges, your ships and stuff, and give a lot of examples. And that's what I did. I burned my ships to burn at no retreat, nothing left, and only one goal is to go after Khashoggi. And
that was one thing that you said that I absolutely loved was you can't be afraid to lose what you have, right? Like a lot of people that make their first million, they make their first 10 million, they whatever, and they hold on to that. They're like, how can I keep this forever? But I mean, I have the same mentality as you, is like, I don't care. Like, let's just, bet it all, all in on everything. And I think that, a lot of people, they're too, I always say fear is face everything and rise, because a lot of people, they don't face their fears. They just hold on to it, and it actually holds them back. So that's one thing I love about you, and love about, just your personality. It's so, mesmerizing and charismatic, and like you're so happy all the time. Like every interview that I've seen you on, like, it's amazing, and it's great.
Yeah, I learned early on in life that if you live by fear, you'll be stuck, because you'll be afraid to lose the little things that you have. If it's a house, a car, a sport, family, you don't go after your real dreams. And mine were always much bigger than what I had. So I had to reverse that. That fear of loss is greater than the hope of gain, to where my hope of gain was greater than my fear of loss. So I just definitely had to reverse exactly what I was thinking, how I was thinking, if I was going to achieve the things I wanted to achieve.
Yeah. And your persistence and perseverance, like some of these transactions. So, I mean, I'll let you tell the story, but about how you went, how you chased this guy for 4 years, and then the same thing with Carl Icahn, and, just like going after them until like you get a million no's. Like tell me about that. Like
I don't view a no as a no. I know there's a yes behind every no, and it's just your sheer willpower that will overcome all these other people. You just got to know that you can be so strong, and most people will break down and finally say yes if you're have enough persistence and gentle persistence and stuff. And so you can turn any no into a yes. And I proved it over and over again. So again, with Khashoggi, it took me 2 years to find him, another 2 years of chasing him until he told me to get lost. I don't know how many times he told me to get lost, probably 1,000 times, until he finally said,
how did you find him? Like, how did that go down?
Well, I finally found a guy that knew him. He was a psychic who said he read tarot cards for him. So I said, well, at least it's an end. It's not exactly the first person I thought I'd meet him through, but it was. And asked him, how did they meet him? And he said through his chauffeur, his driver. I said, well, introduce me to the chauffeur. And they gave him like $1,000. And when next time you see Adnan and you're reading his cards, tell him you see a guy named Ramy coming in his future. And so I did that, and from the chauffeur, I got to know his chiropractor, the different people around his circles, and I built a friendship with a lot of people around his circle till I got to know so many of the people, and all he heard was my name for a very long time, Ramy this, Ramy that. And finally, after 6 months, he said, well, I'd like to meet this Ramy, and we sat down, and that's the first time I saw such great wealth, and I realized this is really the place I need to be, and if I was going to build what I was going to build. And he we talked, and then when I finally came my turn, he says, what are you looking to do? I said, I'm here to work with you and tell you I'm going to be the greatest guy that ever worked with you. And kind of laughed, but then he realized I was serious, and he said, we're too busy, come back in a couple of years, and maybe. And I kept on persisting, and I said, well, let me come back in a week. I'll show you how I could structure a deal. I had no idea what to show him. Came back, still, he tried to brush me off, didn't want to do it. and I just went and found him in the living room. I said, listen, you don't understand. I am going to be working with you. I know I'm 28 and a lot of people approach you, but you don't understand. I am going to be the best guy that ever worked with you. And he says, I'll come back in a couple of years. But so again, it was nice, left, but I got to know people around him. And I had 3 people on my payroll, and they just told me every time he was somewhere, tell me where he was at. And I would just then get there before he got there. And I would, if he was at the Bristol Hotel in Paris, I would check him in and before he got there and you say, oh, I checked you in, everything's ready. I told all these people I was that advanced guy. And there's no reason why nobody didn't believe me. So,
Right.
so it got to a point where it was this, I just kept on following him, doing things for him, became indispensable. I just nonstop just kept on just persisting until one day he finally broke down and said, and I was down to my last, I had no money down to, I guess I was down to my last, I was 85,000 my American Express when he finally said, yes, okay, we'll work together. And then he let me work on one deal and I made it work out really, really well. And from there, we worked together for the next 8 years and I made the first billion with him. And it was
incredible.
It was something by 32. I had $1 billion from because I had a goal and didn't pursue it.
Wow. And that's such a short amount of time too. Like people, like obviously you went from $50 million and like, I mean, $50 million is a lot of money, but once you saw the billions and you saw that he, you know, he's one of the richest men in the world and you saw that opportunity helping him out. And then within literally from 28 to 32 or, you know, 33, whatever, you made $1 billion. So, I mean, from 23 to 33, I mean, only 10 years to make your first billion, which is pretty crazy. So, I mean, that's pretty fast growth. So, and
a lot of people think that's a long time to pursue something and all the rejections too.
Short, like that's a blink of the eye. And 2, and I always say this to my audience and people is like, there's power in proximity, right? Like you hang around the people to, you know, that you want to be like, because if you're, you know, if you're wanting to be a millionaire, you hang around with 5 millionaires, you'll eventually be the, you know, the 6th millionaire. You want to be a billionaire, you hang around 6 billionaires, you know, you'll be the 7th. And so and it's obviously part of the mastermind principle in Napoleon Hill's, you know, like if you get around other minds, you're going to create that third mind. You're going to, you know, grow with them and build something great, which is awesome.
Right. You become what you think of most of the time. And if you want to think that way, you got to be around people that think that way.
Yeah. Well, and that was something too that you said on Ken's interview was whenever you were homeless, you know, you're 12 years old, you're in Tampa, and you said that you wanted to be by yourself. Like you didn't want to hang out with the other homeless people because you didn't want to adopt that mentality, you know. Exactly. And I see especially with COVID and all the stuff, like people blame everything on, you know, the pandemic, but there's so much money out there, even during the pandemic, like, you know, tons of industries are making way more money than, you know, than they ever did. Because didn't you start a new company during COVID just because you saw
like a new company, adjusted things, and I made money anyway. So it's really, those are excuses. There's always ways of making money and you just have to find ways of making money.
Yeah. And your claim to fame is really structuring these business deals, you know, getting with the right people and structuring, you know, I'll do the sweat equity and then you put up the money. Same thing with like the camper vans, right? You or the custom vans. You went to that guy, some random guy that you never met and convinced him, you know, you were persuasive enough to say, hey, give me $1 million. I'll start a dealership. And then from there, you know, you grew it. And, you know, did you sell that company or did you hold on to it?
Yeah, I sold all those companies to go after Khashoggi at the time.
Okay, awesome. So you just left everything behind because you knew that, you know,
he was to burn my bridges and know exactly what I had to do to burn my bridges and get what I needed to get to achieve what I needed to achieve.
That's incredible. And then after you made your first $1 billion, like what did you do? Like obviously at that point you would kind of feel like you would want to take a little break or say that you made it at that point. Like what was your what was your experience after that?
Yeah, no, I wanted to take a break, and so I did I did take a break. I decided to go to LA and then just play really hard. And
Yeah.
LA was a perfect place to play. You know, Playboy Mansion was here. I broke into Hollywood and all that, and I had a lot of fun for a few years. And then I met John Gray, and I said, you know, I'm still a businessman. And, you know, I saw how great he was and how he motivated people and how great his book was and everything. So I ended up uh, just marketing his book. Ended up selling 50 million of his books. Kept it there for 6 years, and then it was from that I developed, you know, marketed another, I don't know, 75 products, and I built a company that I took public and brought that to $1 billion market cap.
Wow.
But again, adversity comes, you know, after I did that, I 9/11 hit, and I had everything tied up in those companies, and it was interesting because I don't know if anybody remembers, but back then it was the market shut down after 9/11, and then everything started collapsing, and I was one of the companies that collapsed. And I have an Arab name. Khashoggi owned 40% of the company. It was now I was a target, and then so I spent the next 7 years. Not only did I lose all my money because of that battle, but I also had to battle the government. So 5 years of battling the government, losing all my money. It was again another powerful learning lesson from Think and Grow Rich. You know that you know it works for not only for money but for everything. You know, so I started battling there and used all those principles, fought for 7 years. And then the end of that period, and that's why the interesting thing part of the book is more at the end, and everything. I ended up definitely losing everything I had, and also had to finish with the government. I ended up winning that battle, and winning that battle cost like 20 million, but I was left basically again totally homeless, had no money, and I was also on prescription drugs because this prescription happy doctor was writing all these prescriptions for me. He says I needed because I've been going through real pressures and stuff like that, which I wish I never took because I think clearer, and I would have been able to deal with it better and stuff. So, but because of those drugs and everything, I wasn't thinking 100% the way I normally were thinking. So I had to now work on well, I ended up being totally broke in the streets, and I was back starting with nothing this 5 years ago. And again, that was again a really good lesson of what I had to do to win. But I ended up, you know, it ended up totally homeless. Took that 21, went to people. One person helped me, John Gray. He gave me 10,000, and from that 10,000, kept on. You know, I got myself at least a hotel room, and then tried a whole bunch of things until I finally figured out what to do to end up to rebuild. And within 5 years, I took a company that I built and took it to took it public. Started a bunch of other companies until to a point now that today, you know, between all the companies I own and everything I cashed out, I definitely rebuilt more than what I ever had. So that book was really good. So coming back from nothing 5 years ago and getting my health back, which was the goal, getting my airplane back, building the wealth and everything else. So it's all again based because of what that book said and what it said I can achieve.
Yeah, and that's insane. Just to think, like, you've already made it. You know, you made 50 million, then you got to the billion. You know, you're young. You know, you're living the LA lifestyle. You're hanging out with, you know, Hugh Hefner at the Playboy Mansion, and then just, you know, 9/11 happens. It rips it all away. You know, now you're getting, you know, you got a doctor that's prescribing you all these pills, and then you're fighting the government, which you won, right? Which is something big to say, right? like you beat the government. They couldn't find anything on you, which is insane. You know, that you fought them for 7 years because and didn't the FBI agents that didn't they get indicted or something like that?
Yeah, I got in trouble because they're trying to set me up and everything. So
That's
I ended
insane.
up, so it showed what was really going on. But it was
Yeah.
definitely an insane time. And
yeah. Well, and a lot of that stuff is witch hunts, right? Like they're always trying to, put someone, they always want to put someone on the pedestal and then try and crucify them, So, I mean, that's, and for you not to hold any grudges or not be mad about it, like that just says a lot about your character, because a lot of people, they take these losses or they go through these hardships and they don't realize how hard it is during the time, especially with you, going through all this, you're on antidepressants, like, I mean, it's hard, right? But you anchored yourself to, the Think and Grow Rich principles of Napoleon Hill, and you just followed those steps, and it's literally a guideline for success, and
exactly.
Bringing it back to, let's talk a little bit about your book. So obviously you authored Can You Really Think and Grow Rich? I just got it last night. I'm glad it came in time. So and it looks like a super simple read. I flipped through, read about the first chapter or so, but it's literally the next step after you read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Like, this is the sequel, and you actually flew out Don Green, the Napoleon Hill Foundation CEO, right? Didn't you have him on your jet? And he approved the book, right? He said that it was
that he endorsed it. I mean, he really thinks it's it's what Napoleon Hill has been waiting for, somebody to prove out his work, that he thinks it is the best example of that.
Yeah.
So it was great to have his endorsement, and it came full circle, which is kind of cool to be able to come full circle and be able to, because I read that book at 12, and to now to have the CEO of the foundation to kind of like tell me how great the book is really good.
Yeah, that's
definitely a full circle kind of thing, which is it's definitely.
And what do you acclaim that to, right? Like, do you acclaim it to like manifesting it and working hard? Like, I mean, because I know, like, for me, manifesting stuff, like I have all the future stuff that I want in life. It's on my vision board, and I look at it every day, and I work hard towards it. Like, what do you acclaim that to, as far as like making things come full circle for you? Or do you think it's just serendipity?
No, it's not that. You make your own future. It's definitely working hard and deciding what you want out of life and making it happen. It's just nothing comes just serendipitously.
I know. Yeah, you can want in one hand and fill it up with stuff in the other, and we'll see which one fills up quicker, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely something that you have to really work for and drive for.
Yeah. And after that, so after you lost everything, like what happened next? Because obviously you had the huge mansion in Beverly Hills, you had the jet, and like the jet that we're talking about, it's not like a Citation or something, like it's it's huge.
No,
like
full wide body jet.
I don't think the Trump plane or Air Force One has anything on it. Like it's it's a big plane. So
it's a plane that Khashoggi had, so I wanted to get one like him. Always, it keeps me in the right mindset.
Yeah, and I know, like, throughout, so like taking another step back, throughout your life, you always did stuff strategically, and I do the same thing. Is like, I really want this, and I know that this like will set my mindset up properly to where I can like get there, right? So like I'm looking at 10-20 million dollar mansions and $100 million estates and stuff like that, and driving past it. And once you actually visualize that and you see it, and someone owns that, right? Because you were buying, like, even when you were homeless, you were sleeping in a Cadillac, right? Which that's a good car to sleep in, because you still feel like, okay, this is a nice car, this is still a status, and you were doing things strategically. Like the first thing that you did whenever you got to LA was buy the jet, right? If I remember correct. Yeah. So I mean, like, you're doing these things strategically, that is, one, setting you up, but it also is like you're not stuck where you're at. You're like, I'm always on to the next thing.
Exactly. And you have to be, because it's easy to get stuck.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people, they do get stuck, or they try and posture, that they're further along than they are, and then they just like try and maintain that status. And like you can't get stuck where you're at. You got to continually look forward. And I remember, I think it was on Ken's interview where you said you're always playing chess, not checkers, right? And I
Right,
think
because you
that's
have
how
to think 20 moves ahead all the time, or people will beat you.
yeah.
But everybody,
Well, go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, go.
No, I'm just saying, you're fighting the world all the time, and you're trying to make things happen, and a lot of things can happen. There's so many variances of any decision you make. It could go one direction or another, and when it does go in that direction, there's 10 possible other directions it can go. So you have to always be on top of the game and think of every possible thing that can happen.
Yeah. So after you lost everything and then you got it all back, like what happened after that? Because didn't you actually, like, didn't you code out? Like, didn't you die for like 20 minutes or something?
Yeah,
Or something?
yeah, that was another thing that was shows you nothing stops you. So I definitely I definitely ended up uh, I died for like 20 minutes, and then I was on the machines for about 2 days, and I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. So it was really one of those things that shows that no matter what you can do, you can achieve things, and nothing stops you from that.
Wow. So I mean, you went from homeless, dying, on prescription meds, like losing everything, gaining it back multiple times. I mean, your story is insane. So what's some advice, obviously people need to go get your book. Like, if you don't get this book, it's $20. Like, you definitely get the book. Go, you can get it at can you really think and grow rich.com, and I'll link that
Right.
down below. And then also get Napoleon Hill's book as well, so you can read
Yeah.
that. And don't
Yeah,
you,
my
I
site
think
you can get as a bundle, or you can buy it on
yeah.
Amazon, but the 3 weeks in delivery, you might not get till Christmas. So it's on my site, it will deliver in the next 2 or 3 days. So
Yeah, I think I got mine in like 3 days whenever I ordered it. And you're also doing a raffle, right, on your website if you subscribe to your page. Are you doing
yeah,
that?
so if you subscribe to the page, so we'll do once every 3 months. We'll pick somebody, and they can spend time on my airplane. We'll go wherever we're going to be going that 3 months, and you can spend a lot of time with me, and I can talk about the things you're important to you or what you want in life, and
That's awesome.
we'll go through
How many
that.
times how many times can I enter that, right?
Yeah, as many times as you want.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit, because you're in several different industries, because you purchased the Piccadilly chain, right? So tell me a little bit about that, and then also a little bit about your airlines purchase as well. Because I mean,
Yeah,
you've
that
dabbled in
happened to 2004. Yeah, I bought those and sold them also. So again, I'm never in the industry for longer than 2 to 5 years usually. So I buy things, sell them, buy things, sell them. And that's what I like. And I build things and sell them. Right now I have a company called EV Mobility, which I know is going to be worth a couple $1 billion in a year or so. I mean, we put Teslas in apartment buildings and hotels as an amenity, and people get to use them through an app, and it's really easy to just go down there and book the car, and just it's a car share program that and everything is going EV, so that's doing really great. I have a show in Vegas. I'm working on 3 other projects that we're about to launch this, first of the year. So try to keep busy and do a lot of things because I enjoy doing a lot of things.
Yeah, that sounds like me. I always love having my hands in multiple different things. How do you stay focused with that though? Because that, like, sometimes that can be hard whenever you put too much on your plate and you're doing too many things. How are you able to stay focused and stay on track with that?
Well, this is again one of the things is in the book. It shows how my mind works. It's almost like a file cabinet. So I focus 100% on when I'm working on that, and within a second I could switch back and focus on what I need to do on something else. So that's filed away. So I never am distracted. So I'm always 100% in whatever I do.
Yeah. Now, are you like time blocking these things? Because I know like Elon Musk time blocks like every 30 minutes he does this or whatever. Or do you just like pick something, work on it, and then, all right,
Yeah.
let me move on to the next thing.
Yeah, as it comes, I just kind of work on it and just deal with it as it comes.
Nice.
But it gives you, you can work on a lot of things pretty quickly if you do that and make things happen.
Yeah, definitely. Now, tell me like what a day in the life of Ramy looks like, you know, like now that obviously you've got multiple public companies, you know, what does Ramy do all day? Like, are you, you know, in board meetings all the time, or are you just hanging out? Like, what does it look like?
Well, I definitely, I'm in a lot of meetings and phone calls and stuff. I start out early. I wake up at 4 o'clock. A lot of times I trade. Because I've been trading for a very long time. If I'm really early and I see a really good trade, but I hire a lot of great people to run my company, so they do a good job. So I just, you know, talk to them, you know, figure out what needs to be done, and let them know what they need to execute on, and then and they do it. So it's a lot of just working on things that that I'm building, and kind of managing my team to make that happen as I keep on thinking of more and more ideas and things to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's mainly, you know, relying on the team, trusting the team, and, you know, you execute at such a high level. And that's been one of the things too. Like one of my buddies who was on a yacht with I think it was Naveen Jain, and he took a phone call, and his phone call was the same time as my buddy's phone call, and they were like 10-minute phone calls, but you know, his problem solved, you know, a $10 million problem, and you know, my buddy solved like, you know, $100,000 problem, right? So it's looking at the market and looking at, you know, the problems that you're solving, are they big enough? And you know, especially with like your EV mobility company, I mean, that's going to be huge. Like I'm just seeing it, and I'm like, that's super smart, because you think about like the Bird scooters. I mean, it's the same thing, but you're actually providing, you know, amenities of an actual car, and it's nice, you know, a nice Tesla.
Right. So it's really talking about it. It's just you find it, that was a need that I knew that needed to be filled, and I went after it and did it. And you know, as soon as I thought about it, I did it. I didn't procrastinate, and took a long time. I found the people that knew what they were doing to help me out, and build the technology, and launch the company. So it's really everything is always a decision, and everything is, you make everything happen if you decide to make it happen. So
yeah, definitely. And with that, you know, like, I mean, you decided that you wanted to go after, you know, shogi, and go after, like, you made that decision, and that's, you know, in turn, you know, made your first billion from that. Same thing with the 50 million, you know, you pursued that guy, and you know, wherever, Georgia, and you know, even being faced with adversity, and him coming out there with a shotgun, like you were, like, you didn't take no for an answer. And I think that that's like, a lot of people have an issue to where they take no as an answer.
Right.
Like, it's like, there's never a no, it's just a not right now, right? And even if it's not right now, like, you know, keep knocking until they say yes.
Yeah, and eventually people will say yes. It's just one of the things I say in there is, you do become what you think of most of the time. And I give the example of that doctor. If you think of being a doctor all the time, you study medicine and you treat patients and all that, you don't notice business opportunities and stuff, but you're a doctor. Same as any engineer, lawyer, you know, waitress, you know, and then the limitations on how much you're going to make, you put on yourself, because there's no limits on what you can do. So it's really just changing your mindset, saying, yeah, I can do this, I want this, and I believe I can do it, because I'm you know. So it's all decision, it's all believing in it, and then it's all then building the burning desire. I give a lot of steps in the book, how do you do all that, and then you go execute.
Yeah,
it's really all of it. It's just really executing on the things that you decide on doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know, talking about that, the steps, like that's one of the biggest steps that people miss, right? Like, obviously people have, you know, sometimes have the burning desire, but they don't execute on it, right? And so if you're not taking massive action, like, you know, what are you doing?
What's the use of having if you're not going to execute on it at all? I mean, it's just
Yeah,
you know, you have to execute on the things you decide on, or what's the point of just wishing or wanting? It doesn't get you very far.
Yeah, wishing and wanting to, $1 billion to come into your bank account's not going to do it. You actually got to do some work, right? So
yeah, that's even Napoleon Hill says you have to decide what you're going to give back to get it. And yeah, one of the things is action. And like Don Green says in Think and Grow Rich, to mention action 77 times. I mean, it's a very important thing to get out there and do something to get it. You can't just wish and hope and think it's going to happen. I mean, it's really there's a lot that goes into making things happen and winning.
100%. Now on that, so let's talk a little bit about, like, if you were, let's just say some of my users and followers are, they're just starting out. Maybe they don't have a lot. Maybe they're just getting into business or whatever. What would you say to them? Like, what would their first steps be?
Well, first decide what you want. Once you figure out what you want, you're way ahead of the game. And then don't put any limits, to really decide what you really want without any limits of getting it. And once you're there, then you have to build a burning desire, because so many things will come to stop you from gaining that. So you have to have enough burning desire to know that, you're going to overcome any obstacles, any objections. So build that burning desire. And then once you have that, then it's amazing how, like, the universe gives you opportunities how to achieve that. All of a sudden doors open up, ways of doing it, and then you take action, go after all those things that you saw and want, and that leads you to your goal. And so it's really, at the end of the day, you just have to really go after every opportunity that furthers your goal.
Right. Now, do you attribute that, as far as like your success, to your mindset or taking action, or are they equally important to you?
The mindset is taking action. Everything's a mindset. So it's really, I attribute everything to the mindset. What you decide to do to get to win, you have to decide and do it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it is the mindset of winning. It's a mindset of getting something done. So it's so it is a mindset.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, as far as, so obviously after you made your billion, you went public with the different companies, and then you lost it all, you came back, went public again. What are you doing now? Like, what's your main focus now? Obviously EV mobility, you sold.
That's my main focus. I have a lot of other companies I'm working with. So it's really, they're all bigger, because I believe I could do bigger and more. So it's really just doing things that I really want to do. I have a million ideas that comes up every day, and I just, so I have to pick which one I'm going to work on.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, right? Like, I mean, I do the same thing. I lay in bed late at night and I'm like, oh, this is an awesome idea, and keep a little notebook by my bed and just write down what I'm thinking about, so I don't, don't forget about it. But as far as the book, you said you can get it at 2 days on your website. Do you guys have the Audible or like audiobook out yet?
Yeah, the audiobook should be available by tomorrow, I think. I mean, we submitted it and got approved, and it's going to be on iOS, Android, and also the big platform that has all these books. So it's really, I'm just waiting for, I think we got a final approval for it just to show up. So I know the ebook is available on Kindle and Amazon, but we'll have an ebook also available online. So
Awesome.
so it's really, and so I'll just you just should check and it'll be there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so go to canyourreallythinkandgrowrich.com. You can also get it on Amazon, but you'll get it a lot faster on his direct website. Take and buy 2 copies, give one away. I mean, it's definitely worth it for sure. I'm probably the whole rest of the day I'm going to be diving into this, so super ecstatic about this and you spending some time with us. How can people meet with you or reach out to you? Is there any way for them to connect with you if they wanted to?
Yeah, they want to. I mean, they could find me on Facebook and then ask questions on on the messaging thing, and I think it's the best way to look at that. And I know I'm taking a well-deserved vacation.
Yeah, where are you going?
About,
I know you said you were going out of town. Where are you going?
we're gonna go to Belize in Costa Rica for like 10 days, just for a little vacation, and then so probably gone the rest of the year at this point.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's definitely well deserved as far as all your success, and you're absolutely crushing it. So I definitely appreciate you spending some time with us, Ramy, today, and we'll look forward to maybe having you again or meeting up with you. Are you doing any speaking engagements or anything in person?
I will when I get back. I do give talks at universities, and I know I've been invited to a few talks, so I'll start doing some talks when I get back.
Awesome. Well, definitely keep me updated on that. I'll reach out to you, because I would love to fly in and meet you, or fly into LA, whatever, whenever you're free. I would love to meet up with you and chat. So
Absolutely.
yeah. And then make sure you guys go get the book. Make sure that you register so you can be put in the raffle to fly on the plane with Ramy. It's going to be an awesome experience. So thank you for being on the Whiskey Winners podcast, Ramy. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning.
My pleasure. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you too.
Thank you for listening to the Whiskey with Winners podcast, your home for real and raw stories of industry titans. Make sure to click the button below to subscribe. Follow our journey on Instagram at Most Interesting Marketer and Anchor, Stitcher, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. Remember to always stay humble, stay hungry, and stay focused.